We're going to get a good report here, I'm sure.
You are. In fact, I wanted to give you an update on the Finney County Fair. So we had 1,656 entrants in both the animal and the static. 654 of those participants were animal participants, 118 in clothes, 208 in foods, and 506 in static. So we're pretty excited about the turnout. I think Saturday went fantastic. We had some new features. We had, I know some of you were out there. We had the co-op had a wonderful corn pit out there that was highly popular with the young people. We did also have the antique tractor pulls, the milking station, and new this year was the Touch a Truck program. All of our public services came out. We parked them on the plaza. The kids had a fantastic time going through the SWAT vehicles and the sheriff's cars. So overall it was a wonderful, wonderful week. So we're very excited for next year, and hopefully we'll stall animals. And I want to say thank you to all of the volunteers. It takes a village to get that fair accomplished. So I want to say thank you publicly to all the people who participated. So
I'd offer a couple comments beyond our thanks. The antique tractor pull, I counted 34 antique tractors there. That was outstanding. There was a 1938 D John Deere that pulled that sled 127 feet and 5 inches, I think. Is that about right, Dwayne?
You're exaggerating, but it was a 1937, 111. My grandfather's tractor.
But now I'll be more accurate with this reporting. Your budget is about $53,000 of county taxpayer money.
Yes,
People
sir.
that say, hey, that's an exorbitant expense, consider $53,000 that had, as you said, 1,536 folks, or
1,556 folks, and that pays judges, that pays
they were not.
payouts.
They
Yes.
were not in the juvenile detention facility or on parole. They were
No,
down
they
there
were
doing
not.
something good. And to me, that's well worth more than 53,000. But to you and your folks, and there are all kinds of volunteers, we appreciate it. So,
Well, and we appreciate all the help. Thank you very, very much.
Roxanne, you might mention what the auction brought in.
The auction, well, we don't have the final, all of the payouts are not in. There's a lot of add-ons that come in. The day of the auction was $181,000. But like I said, with the payouts that are still coming in, which are considered add-ons, yeah, we'll probably hit that 200,000 plus mark. We're pretty excited. So, yes.
you want to say anything, Dwayne?
Just my compliments to the Fair Board. These people put a lot of time, a lot of effort. It's a love of passion, I'm sure, but they put a lot of hours into this.
And you think that something like this went off basically with 6 people who gave up a week's vacation time. I want everybody to understand these people work just like they're at work the week of the fair. It is not a walk in the park for them. They do it because they love it. So when you get upset and you want to yell at us, just remember we're giving them time freely.
All right, thank you very much, Roxanne.
Thank you.
Anyone else have a public comment they'd like to offer? Anyone? If not, Alicia, it says it's your turn, and we have some interested people in, I think, what you're bringing us, so you have the floor.
Good morning. The first case I have before you is FC 2021-20, is the Berry Tractor Edition. It's located at 3830 and 3880 West Jones Avenue. And this is where Berry Tractor is. And what they are doing is they are buying some land from the additional owner so that they can expand their business. And this is just so they can store more of their equipment in the back as they're running out of room. Oh. You're okay.
As that comes up, I have, Walter, do you have something on this that you want to say, or just want to say? Just do. Okay.
On there are 2 houses on the property, and there's one in the front that is an abandoned house. And then there's a manufactured home behind it. So that property is zoned ag, and it'll remain ag as it's more than the 40 acres, so there are no issues there. For the light medium industrial property that they are doing, normally we would require them to rezone that. However, the county has given us authority for places that have just like a small area that need to be rezoned, that when we redo the maps, we can just add this into the to that list of properties.
Okay. Let's get Dwayne back here so we have a quorum. So the action sought today is either a yea or a nay to a replat.
Yes.
So I would entertain a motion. Sure.
Alicia, what are the plans for all the rest of that? They storing equipment on all that?
No, so where the Berry Tractor addition is, if you scroll down to the plat, that portion down there, they're adding about 2 acres to their property.
Oh, okay.
The rest of it is the property that's ag, that will remain ag, that's got the living quarters on it.
So they're not buying all the rest of that?
No, they're just buying about 2 acres from them.
Still entertain a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve the request for the plat.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the plat. Now, any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye,
Aye.
and that carries.
The second one is FC 2021-23, Richmeyer Farm, second edition. And this is located at 4155 West 6 Mile Road. They are taking out 5 acres. There is a house there, although it's not shown on the map. They are taking out that land so that they can sell it to their son, so he can buy the house and the property that's located on it. So it's zoned ag, can remain ag unless they decide they want to do something in the future, add a building on it, then we would require them to rezone. And the applicants are here as well if you have any additional questions.
Be right back with you. Hang on just a second. Had to borrow a blue pen here. So, okay. Now, the Richmeyer property. Any discussion, questions? A motion would be appropriate.
Your turn, Dwayne.
My turn. Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the Meyer plat.
Second.
Have a motion, second, discussion on the motion. If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That carries.
Thank you.
Good job there today. Did Brent notice that you're doing a good job? Always. Is there another one to sign or just the? Just that one. That's the only one we have here. Oh, the only one we have. We'll need the other plats then? All right, thank you. Lana Duvall, you're hiding behind the podium.
I wasn't trying to hide.
Lana, I asked for this presentation and not to reveal any confidential sources, but to kind of alert the world that there's something afoot and that we need to probably consider some action. So
Absolutely. No, we appreciate that. So as we've had discussions with you, we are rapidly running out of commercial and industrial properties. And as you are well aware, we've nearly run out of residential opportunities as well. So one of the areas that we have not been able to do significant development is in that envelope between Garden City and Holcomb. And that is largely due to wastewater. We have roads available, everything else, electric, water, everything else is available there. Wastewater is the challenge in that area. And we would ask that we conduct a study to determine exactly what we need to build in order to serve the opportunities that we have there. There's a myriad of opportunities available in that section. Some of that has potential for housing, pretty large residential tracts. Other areas are very suited for industrial and for some commercial projects as well. We did reach out to PEC, which the city of Garden City utilizes for their contract engineering on wastewater, and they felt like a study like this could be completed certainly less than $30,000. So we would like to move forward with getting that study done. We can either manage that RFP process through the FCEDC office. You can manage that through staff of your own. As far as paying for it, we do have funds available, FCEDC does, in our special projects budget that we could utilize to pay for the study. Or you can opt, I guess, to keep it in-house and pay for that through other sources. So we're just here to throw the idea out and determine how best you want us to move forward.
And I have a question or two before I turn it over to fellow board members.
Sure.
Timeframes are a little tough to press for, but part of this expansion that you see is residential and parts commercial. And do you have any hint as to when some of that might be revealed to the public and so they'll need sewer service, and so that our voters will know what we're building sewer for?
Sure. So currently there are already some housing projects that have been brought to us that could move forward if we had wastewater available. And our office has several parcels in this section that would be served by this wastewater out for industrial properties to review as well. So I don't think it would be very long, and you would see activity taking place in there once we have a solution in place.
And I'm going to make one more comment, and you can correct me if I'm incorrect, that this could be built in a couple stages, or it could all be built at once. Is that?
Right, and that's part of what the study would be able to show us is, how much capacity do we want to build to start with? Obviously, the challenges of building in the lines, the trunk lines to get the wastewater to a treatment facility, those are pretty much expenses that just have to come. But as far as processing of the wastewater, we can certainly, have them do the study in a way that allows us to see how we could stage that and potentially save some upfront money on building the actual treatment portion of it.
Okay. Fellow board members and also county administrator, if you have questions or comments.
I don't know, you might touch on, Lana, our success around sewer districts isn't very good. We had a little trouble collecting.
You said that, I didn't. Yeah, so we did.
We can run them, but it's getting people to pay is the problem.
Right. We actually, in discussions with Wheatland Electric and Rural Water, and we talked to them about the potential of them actually managing and having an operations agreement on a wastewater solution. They provide the water already to the area, so it would just make sense that they be collecting the wastewater fee as well. So they're open to those discussions. They've had some preliminary discussions with their board at Rural Water, and they feel like that wouldn't be a challenge for them. They also have qualified individuals who work for the Rural Water District who are fully qualified to manage wastewater as well.
That's what I like to hear.
I thought that's what you wanted to hear.
I'd put this on Robert, but I can let economic development handle this. I think your plate's full enough, but if you want, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, we're going through right now, a standardization study for your three districts with Sloan, Meyer, and Hancock. And both your internal staff, Larry and Ray, are working that process. My hopes is that this would be brought in under that as well, since whether or not we have rural water management or whatever the case may be, I still think you should go through any type of a standardization process on if it needs pumps, if it needs sizings, whatever the case may be. So I'm a little bit, I'd like to be involved, if not spearheading the thing, just so we can keep the thing standardized with your other three that are going on right now. As far as managing it from the water aspect of it, I agree with that. I think that if they are willing to cover that and manage it if they have operators on staff that can manage a wastewater system. I know Ray is licensed to handle a small wastewater system like this as well. Not advocating that we get into that business because I think it's an issue, a kind of a no-win issue because of the lack of ability to meter the effluent of that facility. So my preference is that if we get into this business, is that we work with the water district, as Lana has indicated, to try and find a solution to operate it.
Actually, that's down the road. I mean,
Yeah, right. Time is of the essence.
Yeah.
So I would, if Robert wants to be involved in that and then there's a potential that your existing engineers can take on this project, I'll have Steve Cottrell from our office reach out to Robert and we'll have discussions with those engineers. If they're willing to do it, can provide it timely, we're happy to work within those parameters. If not, we'll come back to you for another alternative.
Do you have, Robert, an engineering firm and that is available to do your other sewer district work?
Excuse me, we can speak with them. I'm not opposed to having a conversation with whomever you already have engaged on this. But I do want to make sure that we do have a standardized systems, because you'll have four in essence. So, and I think it's important up front to identify how this thing is going to pay for itself, and so that's something that we really need to flesh out under, and there's a couple, within the statutes, there's about 2 or 3 ways that you can then, in essence, distribute a cost of this under the statutes that authorize your sewer districts, 1927 A01s.
And we also have kind of considered vaguely, so far we haven't put a pencil to the plans, but using some federal money for part of this process.
It should qualify under your ARPA funding for any potential studies or potential construction of it, if need be.
So that could be helpful.
Yes. And we can speak with Jeff.
Meantime, we're kind of at a who goes first, the builder or the wastewater, and to me, the wastewater has to be, that plan needs to be in place.
Correct.
So where do we go? And how soon do we go?
the sooner the better, I guess. So I guess I'm slightly confused. Are you want, Lana's kind of lined up a company to do this study.
Let's talk to them then, yeah. Let's talk
Fine with
to 'em.
that?
Yeah, let's talk to them. And once again, I've not worked with the organization, the company, so I just need to get a feel for them.
All right, we'll be happy to do that. We'll move forward with that then. Thank you. One other thing I did want to mention, since you have a few minutes, at our board meeting last week, Ron Schreibvogel, who represents Holcomb, had brought up some questions regarding unemployment and whether or not the extended unemployment benefits were having an impact on Finney County Garden City's workforce situation. So I pulled those numbers, and just to share with you, I wish that was the problem, but that's not the problem. As we've said for a long time, we have grown really, really strong for the last decade. And during the pandemic, when other economies were constricting and laying off people and so forth, we just didn't see that. We had an initial shutdown where a lot of service workers were displaced, but that remedied itself really as quickly as we reopened the businesses. So as of last year, at this same time, we had 372 people who were on unemployment in Finney County. Again, that was during the service sector shutdown, so that's not surprising at all. This year, we have 35 people on unemployment. Last year, in this same week, there were 57 new claimants, meaning 57 new people had been displaced during that week. This year, there were 8 who showed up to apply for unemployment for a first time. So just so we have a full understanding of what the situation is here in Finney County, last week, there were 1,055 jobs posted electronically. That's just the jobs that people are advertising. You have to know that a lot of our businesses have quit. They're not even advertising jobs anymore. They're just opening the door, putting up a sign, and hoping that people will show up, right? Even if we put everybody to work that's on unemployment, we're still 1,000 people short of existing jobs. And without housing and without childcare, it's going to be really hard to recruit those folks from outside to come fill those positions. So we just like to remind you that it really is that dire, and we have to be doing everything we can to get caught up, specifically on housing and childcare, to allow us to continue to grow our economy with obviously the vigor that we can, provided we have bodies to do the work. So,
I might report that at 6:30 this morning, the Turning Point Church of the Nazarene Daycare Center opened their doors and accepted kiddies. And they're up and running, and so that's
Yes.
been a long time coming, and maybe that'll be a omen, if you will, for things to come.
it'll certainly help, yes.
Now, before you leave, Bob sitting here as a county representative, Bob, what, if anything, would you like to offer as we try to work together between the county and since you represent us on economic development?
Well, I think Robert brought up a great point, that we need to come up with that standardized agreement so that if we do come up with a solution, we can put it in place. And I kind of wish Trent was still here, because he's going to play such an important role when, let's say, a developer that wants to build those houses on the west side of town, when they get an answer, yes or no, that this county will in fact build a wastewater treatment facility, then we start the clock of going through the process of approval that seems to take a very long time. And hearing Lana's situation, we've got to find a way to get everybody in that same room and make some headway. The residential housing study that's going on, that's going to include the county now and the city of Holcomb, it's going to be really a positive tool. And it will open the door for development, because developers can then have a way to get some money so that they can do infrastructure on their property to make that property so much more readily available. But right now, the whole process is so long. And daycare, we've been talking about it forever. We're really close, but we need that infusion of capital, which you've all been talking about. And we're really close. This one that opened today, fantastic. But we've got another facility that's ready to go that can handle, 59 more kids. How awesome could that be if that can get opened? We all need to stay focused on housing and childcare. We can do all the rest of the stuff in our normal flow, but those two things, we've got to find a way to streamline just as quickly as we can. Because as we all know, there's a great big hole on the east side of town that's now starting to grow some concrete that you can see. And that's going to be several hundred employees. And Lana just shared that we had 37 people, 38 people unemployed. We've got to find a solution to bring people to Garden City, Southwest Kansas. We don't need them all to come here. They can go to Sublette, Scott City, Lakin, Deerfield. I don't care where they live, but they've got to be able to come here to work. And that's going to be our challenge as a team. So we're going to keep coming back, and we're going to keep sharing with you where we are and where we're going, but we're going to need your help.
One of our dilemmas, Larry, just a second, I'll recognize you. One of our dilemmas is that we have to recognize the confidentiality. And that is sort of an impediment. So when those folks are ready to reveal their plans, I would welcome that. That would help us a little bit in getting the community to understand the needs that we're discussing.
Well, I think it's very, very important, and it really helps on an area like this where there are multiple opportunities, but at least some of them, at least the residential people right now that have reached out to us, already own the property. So we're not quite as concerned on confidentiality because of the price of the ground and what might happen to it. But there's a lot of other pieces there that might see that and say, ooh, wait a minute, my land just got really valuable, because it will go up if you do make a decision to create wastewater on that side of
Ask
town.
us to maintain confidentiality, I have to respect that, so.
Yes,
Larry,
thank you.
go ahead.
On your childcare, we were at a fundraiser for one of the gubernatorial candidates a while back, Dr. Clifford and I, and we both expressed our desire that we'd get a little help from Topeka instead of a hindrance. I don't know how long this Nazarene church process was going, but we explained to him that we'd been working on this for years, and you cited that as an example, along with other items we'd worked with Topeka on, our juvenile justice detention center, where we had lots of problems there too, and it was all in Topeka, not here. And so he said he had I can't even remember what exactly his terminology for it was, but it was a environment of cooperation that needs to be in Topeka, and he says that has not existed lately.
Well, we think it's true. At our meeting last week, we authorized Lana to have one additional hat. She's been asked to participate on a statewide level on a child care summit. And I think that'll help us tremendously, because she and her staff have developed this boot camp for child care. And the state is very, very interested in taking on that whole concept, because she is so far ahead of where a lot of other communities are. And it's actually become an income generator a little bit for our side. But more importantly, her voice is being heard. And we've actually had a couple of calls from Topeka that might entail some money. But, you know, we've waited so long for Topeka to help Western Kansas, it's hard to hold your breath.
Okay. That was well said.
Thank you,
Guys,
John.
stick around, thanks. I see it's 9 o'clock, and I see on our agenda at 9 o'clock, we have something, actually with a time frame on it. So I'm going to turn this discussion over to Robert for our ARPA, Disaster Recovery Administration and Consultation.
It doesn't stand for Association for Retired People, does it?
It can today.
I see a Dr. Clifford online.
Okay, is Jeff on there by chance? I think I see him there.
I'm here.
There you
Jeff,
go. Good morning, Jeff.
Stranger in our midst. How are things in New Jersey?
They're well, Commissioner.
Good, good, good. Our commission's a little on the small side today. We've got a couple that are out doing other business, but we're here to listen, so.
Well, we had, just as a prelude here, we sent out requests for qualifications for assisting us in managing this, your approximate 7.1 million in ARPA funds, which we received the first half of it, about 60 days ago or more. Anyway, iParametrics submitted actually a response for managing that, and Jeff is here to talk a little bit about that today. In fact, they, just to let you know, they were the only respondents that we had. So, Jeff, if you want to talk a little bit about this new program, about the ARPA funds, and any guidelines that have, I know there's some preliminary guidelines from the Treasury's office, but nothing finalized yet.
No, Robert, you're right. So good morning, Commissioners. Again, thank you for the opportunity to come before you. And, you know, Dory and Robert, I did have my tiny coffee already. They've been razzing me quite a bit. But really, ARPA is a new thing, the American Rescue Plan Act. It offered, you know, as Robert said, about $7 million to you all. You get half now, half in a year, but it's an opportunity to really make significant investments. I know the presenter before us was talking about, you know, affordable housing, childcare, building on those same things that we looked at and learned from kind of the CARE CRF mentality, you know, in the Spark funds. So it kind of allows you to build upon that, but also allows for a little bit more flexibility. As Robert said, the interim final rule got posted in May. The comment period closed on July 16th, and Treasury has told us that we'll get a final rule or their final guidance sometime within the next 30 days from July 16th. I don't think that's going to happen. They got literally thousands of comments from communities all over the country. The only thing I can say is that it will change, and we've already seen a change. Your eligible uses, you can, again, support your public health response, do premium pay, provide, infrastructure investments in water, sewer, or broadband. One of the interesting things, I'll just caveat broadband. I know we were able to do a lot with the SIR grant previously, but with broadband, they are now defining broadband instead of the 25 and 3, as was usually rural broadband. Any investments in broadband have to bring you to 100 up, 100 down. So that's really a big change within this. That they've defined that the eligible use can't just bring you to 25.3. The other thing that they expanded was, you can also make public safety investments. I think due to some of the national challenges as it relates to some of the violence or, with law enforcement, they've been able to make additional investments in, public safety, and those are eligible under ARPA. The only, the ineligible uses here are really small. You have your federal matching requirements. You can't use them for federal matching requirements. Can't do it for pension. Can't say, hey, you know what? We're going to cut tax revenue by $2 million, and then we're going to use the ARPA dollars to match that. So you can't offset tax reductions, and you can't fund debt service. And then any infrastructure outside of water, sewer, and broadband are not eligible as well. So that's just kind of the overall. The unique thing and the nice thing about these dollars is it's an opportunity to kind of continue to make transformative investments. We were really pressured with the Spark dollars on a really small timeline. These dollars, they have to be obligated by December 31st, 2024 and spent down by December 31st, 2026. So it is how you do have that longer tail possibilities. One update since we last talked also is you have a lot more flexibility within qualified census tracts, but also you're able to do some evidence-based investments. And these are investments to deal with early childhood interventions, improving public health capabilities writ large, long term, and investing in community projects in different areas. As they're qualified census tracts, you can absolutely do it. With the qualified census tract within Finney County is kind of limited, but as long as you incorporate some evidence bases, either a moderate or strong evidentiary connection, you can do a lot more with it. That's kind of the overall. I think overall these dollars give you the opportunity to build upon some of the successes of Spark, and allow you to continue to move forward.
Questions, comments?
You mentioned the ARPA funds for sewer and water. Now, is that for new facilities or existing or all of the above?
All of the above. So,
'Cause
one of the nice things too that we're looking with some of our other clients in Kansas, they have some smaller cities like Holcomb, and they have some flooding challenges that a sewer investment would help fix some of those flooding challenges. So it improves the sewer infrastructure, the wastewater infrastructure for the residents, but then also provide some disaster mitigation. That's a fantastic investment. The community is going to put, the local municipality is going to put all of their money into it, and then the county is going to add a few dollars to that, and you've now mitigated a disaster loss.
Well, I know we've got a housing development that's south of the city that would like to look at a water improvement plan, so that would be on the list too, somewhere.
Yeah, just like with Spark, this is the finite dollars. We'd want to try and find dollars otherwhere as well. In previous comments, I was able to watch some of the Facebook Live prior to coming on is, there are, Topeka may make some investment opportunities available like they did with CERT. We were able to use those dollars and make the county's dollars go even further. I think we can continue to look for those possibilities as well.
Interesting. Wayne?
Okay, I kind of misguessed it. How can we tie some of this into childcare? Is there some way we can, is that a definite on the table?
Yeah, that's a definite on the table, Commissioner. We can look at some of those early childhood interventions. We can look at that as an impediment to economic development. That's as we've talked about, previously for, the last year or so, is that's one of the biggest impediments within the county's development is, childcare, affordable housing. These things can be addressed with ARPA money, depending on how we put them together.
Thank you.
Jeff, are there other funds available through either federal or state agencies from the ARPA distribution?
Yes, so there are, and that's probably one of the biggest challenges right now, is understanding how the other levels of government are making their dollars available. On the federal side, they are making, so mental health is a big priority as well. So I'll use SAMHSA as the example. They have block grant dollars available that can address that. They have stuff on the broadband side, and some of these grant programs are trickling out. Again, Topeka also got a significant amount of money. So you can, they may be doing statewide grant programs, and we're trying to evaluate what they're doing to be able to turn around and say, okay, we're going to use, they may have a child care grant. If they have a child care grant, let's get the money from them and spend on just those local elements that we can.
Anything else for a minute? I see an image of Dr. Bill Clifford, and I don't know if he's online. If you are, Bill, do you have anything that you'd like to offer?
I'm in a meeting and I'm just in listen-only mode, but I'll be at the table working on childcare.
Did you all understand that was a little hard for me to hear?
He mentioned that he'll be at the table working on child.
All right. Anything else?
Jeff, your proposal is, could you just briefly review it with the Board of County Commissioners?
Sure. So our proposal is to provide you very similar services to what we did before under Spark, to be able to provide you advice and guidance throughout this entire process, handle reporting, compliance. If you choose to do small business grants or the emergency rental assistance grants are great. They've gone out statewide. If folks haven't taken advantage of that, there are still emergency rental assistance grants available. Where the funding did leave folks behind, like we talked about before, are some of the mortgage holders. So, if you do grants like that, we can help manage and administer those programs all throughout, very similar to how we did it before. Our goal is to, like it was before, it's just kind of continue making sure that you get the most money available, whether that's from FEMA, Treasury, Topeka, wherever we need to go, and kind of continue bringing in dollars to Finney County and making sure that you keep all the dollars.
Jeff, this is Dwayne. Looking at your proposal of that, basically it's an hourly rate as much as last time. Are those rates similar or without going back?
They are exactly the same rates. We made no changes to them.
Well, I think we'd get a reduction since we're such good clients.
Well, if Robert didn't make so much fun of me,
Oh, paybacks, huh?
We're setting.
we kept it standard across the board.
Appreciate the consideration though for the lowering of that rate. So either that or buy a box of donuts. We're setting some rules here that are going to be important because I'm going to make mention of the fact that we've already heard from one, if you will, outside agency would like to see some funding, and we're going to hear from more. And so we need to either determine that we're using this amount of funding for some local government things, or we're not. So I don't know how else to say that more diplomatically.
Well, once again, you have an opportunity here to help develop a overarching plan on this, and iParametrics assisted us in doing that the last time. In our brief discussion during our budgeting process a couple weeks ago, we did talk about the internal list that needs to be formalized, so we can at least have that in the mix of things. And then keeping in mind and keeping an eye on other funding opportunities, such as we did last time, as we went through the Sparks grant and really tapped into the connectivity grant that afforded us to free up almost an additional $2 million of your Spark grant money to do other things. So we continue to look at those options, especially as they pan out, and using Jeff's firm to assist us in that. What I would ask the Board of County Commissioners to consider today is authorizing us to enter into an agreement with iParametrics for this service, so we can begin that process of developing the plan.
Now, does this agreement that you want, does this involve a meeting every Thursday morning on Zoom at 10 o'clock, as we did in the past?
If you want it to, yeah.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we authorize Robert to come to an agreement with iParametrics to handle this
And sign such a contract?
RPA and sign such contract as presented.
Okay. Second, Larry?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
You are hereby authorized.
All right, we'll forward the agreement to County Counselor and let her peruse through that, and if it meets everything that's her expectations, then we'll go ahead and execute it.
Okay. Anything else that we need to discuss this morning with Jeff?
No, I think we're good. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you all for having us, and
Yeah.
thanks for your continued trust in us.
Yeah, well, you have a good day, and we'll probably see you periodically, maybe in a week or two or three, okay?
Sounds good. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Jeff. Sewer district budgets.
Do we have those? Very good.
What page, 'cause there's way,
They're in here.
Jeff took a lot of pages.
Is that something that you could? Yeah.
Adam's on the stick there. There we go.
We do have 3 sewer districts. As you recall, last week we spoke about the county budget and going through the revenue neutral hearing process with a planned scheduled date for hearing in late September, mid-September. The sewer district is one that we did not touch on last week. But as you peruse through there, you'll see really no change for those sewer districts, and we'll be staying within the revenue neutral rate for each of the 3 sewer districts' operating budgets. Keeping in mind that I have had conversations with the commission about the standardization and improvement process for the sewer districts using the ARPA funds, which will help bring those districts really up to a standard that it just was not quite constructed to for reliability and consistency. What I'm asking for today is a motion to authorize the publication of these 3 budgets for public hearing, which would be the 16th. Is that correct, Ori, as I'm looking at that publication? Or the hearing date would be the 16th?
Have to give how much time?
Yes, okay. So I'm just asking today just for your authorization so these can be published for hearing.
We probably need 3 separate motions for,
Actually, you could do just one. You're not approving, you're not authorizing, you're just allowing us to publish the budget for hearing.
okay?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we publish the 3 budgets for the sewer districts.
1, 2, and 3.
I'll second.
Motion and second, discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That carries.
Thank you.
And those hearings can all be at the same time, can they not, rather than stringing them out all day?
Yes, I've got them scheduled about 5 minutes apart that morning.
I don't envision a great big crowd here for a hearing.
Right, we're also doing a county canvas that day, so we'll start with the county canvas and then move into those hearings.
Sounds good. Kelly, looks like it's your turn. Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, so this morning I was asked to just give a brief update. We received our second quarter health insurance update from IMA. And we're up, I believe you have it in front of you there. I'll just kind of go through the sheet that you have. So the medical is up about 69% from where we were in 2021. That is a good mix of acute and chronic conditions. It's not just, acute conditions that we're seeing. Pharmacy is up 65%. That is due to we have 3 new large specialty drugs that have hit our plan this year. Those are for chronic conditions as well. The dental is up 62% from where we were in 2020. This we are attributing to the dentist office being closed last year due to COVID and people not seeking that care. So a total combined of the 3 of those, we're up 68% from where we were this time in 2020. That 68% there does not include the stop loss or the administration fees. So, the other thing there, large claimants, we have doubled. Last year in 2020, we only had 7 claimants exceed the 31,000. This year, we are already at 14 claimants halfway through the year. Only 2 of those 14 claimants are acute conditions. So the total net cost, $2,780,000. Total budgeted, $2,255,000. We are at a deficit right now of just over $500,000. Finney County's net cost, which is minus the contribution that the employees have put in, is the $2,413,000. We will be receiving our renewal. I believe they'll be out here August 24th. And then I believe IMA is set to present to the commission in probably September again this year.
So $524,000.
Deficit at this time.
That I might,
Now, some claims paid up to this point were claims incurred in 2020 but paid in 21. So that is some of the reason for this as well, but we shouldn't be seeing too many more of those claims. They should have all been about paid.
make a quick point, and then I'll turn to you, Dwayne. That exceeds $1 million in expense right there. When people want to know, why do your taxes tend to go up? Well, so do healthcare costs.
Correct.
Dwayne, go ahead.
Kelly, I might point out, you mentioned the dental thing. A lot of surgery's been put off because of COVID as well, and
Absolutely, there could have been, definitely. We just don't know for sure.
will IMA be able to break any of that out? That might have been COVID-related delays, or?
Yeah, I only know of one claimant that we continue to have COVID-related medical claims on.
Okay.
Other than that, I don't know of any COVID-related claims.
I mean, delays because of,
Delays because, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. Yeah, we can sure look into that, Commissioner, and have that for you in September when they're out.
Going back to, say, 2019, before all this started, were we running a deficit or a surplus back then? Do you have any, you remember? I don't remember.
I don't remember, Larry. I could sure find that out for you, though.
You're kind of curious, because that'd be the last time that things were
Things were
halfway
good.
normal. it's a little hard to compare against last year.
Yep.
Anything else? No, the one question I have regarding our health coverage is some years back, we started an employee clinic,
We did.
and it was going to be an experiment to see if it saved money.
Yep.
I don't know where our experiment is. Are we saving money or is it costing it? Someday, if you can find an answer to that, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll sure get those numbers for you as well.
Okay. Anything else for Kelly? No, we appreciate your report. Trista?
Good morning.
Morning.
I just wanted to give you a brief update on where sales tax receipts have been so far this year. So in front of you or in the packet, you have just a little sheet showing you where we are this year and then a comparison over last year. So during the first 7 months of 2021, the sales tax receipts have increased $404,235.78 over the same period of 2020. So this is a 12% increase over 2020. So we continue to see strong receipts from the state. Keep in mind that these receipts are a couple months behind versus what's paid at the register versus what we get. The other thing I wanted to give you an update on was the transient guest tax. And so if you'll take a look at the second sheet that I provided you, it just gives you an overview of what we have paid, what we've taken in from the state, what we've paid to a couple different entities. And so looking at it, we're still down on the transient guest tax. We're down about $150,000 over 2019 numbers. That's, like you were saying before, that's the last normal period. So that's what we're going to compare it to. 2020 was just not, not of the normal trend for transient guest tax. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Questions, anybody? Comment?
I might have a comment. Last year, even through the pandemic, our sales tax was still actually up for
Well,
the year, was it not?
It was down slightly over 2019, just slightly. Statistically, pretty much even.
Okay. Go right ahead.
That's all I have for you today.
Francis, yes,
She just did that.
Yeah.
well, I'm waiting for Roxanne back there to say, this is what's going on with transit guest. Yeah, I know she just said. No. All right, thank you, Trista.
Thank you.
Ivanhoe Township, we need to appoint somebody.
Earl.
Lori, this memo comes from you, so fill us in here.
Yes, sir. So we currently have a vacancy on the Ivanhoe Township governing body, and that would be the office of trustee on that board. It's been empty since the election because we did not, you guys actually drew out of the hat and appointed somebody at that point. However, they never responded to that appointment, so effectively never took office. So we've been looking since then, and they were able to find somebody who is willing to do it, and it's actually the person who's been the treasurer for the last 4 years. She's not the treasurer this year any longer, so she agreed to fill the spot of trustee if you.
So that would be Lindsay Ruiz.
Lindsay Ruiz is the one that did not
Carol Deaver.
fill the office. So we are asking you to appoint today Carol Deaver.
Carol Deaver, I'm sorry. All right. Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I know Carol, and I really appreciate her stepping up for this, so I would move that we appoint Carol Deaver to the position of Ivanhoe Township trustee.
Second.
motion and second. Those in favor say aye. Aye. She is appointed.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Thank you, Carol.
couldn't read here what I had before me. Linda, you have a series of things here.
Okay, the first resolution that I'm bringing before you this morning is with regard to the COVID-19 pandemic. We are requesting that the county extend the period of emergency for the county specifically, and that's due to the state of Kansas. The governor ended that emergency proclamation on on the 15th of June, 2021. Because of the fluctuation ongoing with COVID, I was asked to create this extension of the emergency for the county so that we would still have some of that emergency flexibility. I don't have the knowledge to speak specifically to what those things are, but that is why we are proposing that.
Yeah, that allows some immunity, and it allows to use volunteers, and it allows
Right.
it's a protective thing. So I would entertain a motion. Resolution number,
This isn't an institution of new restrictions or anything, is it? It's just a,
No, it has nothing to do with the restrictions. I think Dave probably has more knowledge than I do about what the emergency declaration entails and what that allows the community to do. But it's not any new restrictions.
real good example is you have a volunteer nurse coming to give vaccinations, gets injured. Well, we have some protection under the declared emergency, so that her disability or injury is covered. So.
okay, well, I move that we approve the resolution 11-2021.
I'll second.
Motion and second, discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 That carries, so we'll get that signed off for you. Next up.
The next one is, I would call this a housekeeping issue. This is with regard to the emergency declaration in Towns Riverview South subdivision that had to do with their water quality that happened in the last year. That, pursuant to the KDHE memo, was resolved as of August 7th, 2020. So we're asking by resolution for that emergency to end.
That allowed for the dispersal of water and some other things to the KDHE standards, and now they've met KDHE standards, and so this is a Steve Green type resolution to be terminated.
I think both of these were probably.
Yeah.
I move we approve resolution 12-2021.
Second? Second. And discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? That carries. You go ahead
Okay.
there.
All right.
We're waiting.
Sorry, we have one more resolution, and again, this is a housekeeping issue. This was with regard to the emergency
This was for the hazard mitigation.
okay.
We passed that in 20, and if I'm not mistaken, Steve was not able to complete the program with the rest of the entities in 2020 due to COVID restrictions.
Okay,
And so we passed another one earlier this year
okay,
that took the place of this one and failed to rescind it.
okay.
Stayed in it to rescind this one.
Correct. So another housekeeping issue.
Mr. Chairman, I move we rescind the resolution 23 and put in place resolution 14-2021. Is that correct? Is that the way I read that?
Pass resolution 14.
We're going to adopt resolution 14-2021 to rescind resolution 23-2020. Period.
Well said, Larry. I second that for you.
Good job, Dory.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 That also carries. Hang on just a minute here, Linda,
Okay.
Okay. Next up.
Is that the executive session?
Executive session.
Okay, I'm looking here. Non-elected, who all do we need included in this? And 15 minutes or more?
Ooh, she's. How about we just do 30 minutes and get it done?
All right, I'd entertain a motion here.
So move.
Second.
For 30 minutes, executive session, non-elected personnel to include our HR director and our county council and our county administrator, along with commissioners, correct?
Well said.
All right, all those, let's see, we have a motion and a second.
That's correct.
We have a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
pieces of data and statistics on your annual county budget, waiting for your review and your comments on it. As you know, that we will be holding a hearing on the budget here in mid to late September. And anyway, today's work session is focusing on that. So we continue to interview for various positions in the county as well. And really, that is it at this point in time.
Okay. Now, I'm going to turn to Linda, and she's going to want more than a minute.
Okay.
I know, because she's got Linda, the floor is yours.
Yes, sir. A couple of things. First up, I'm still in the process of working on the dissolution of the Northwest Industrial District. It's just a matter of following the statute. We just have one legitimate member on that district that's statutorily required to have 7 members. So in order for them to vote, we need to repopulate that board so that we can get to the process of presenting it to the board for dissolution. So a bit of a process. And then Dave had approached me with regard to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and just looking into whether or not it wouldn't be appropriate to expand that into 5 members. Again, that's a statutory animal. Looking at it, Dory didn't have a lot scanned in, but she's got a big old project down there with regard to past documents. I did meet with Trent and Alicia about that, and so we are looking at what type of resolution and what would need to be amended in order to create that 5-member board, if that's what we want to do. Their concern at the planning office was populating that board, just that they've had some problems in the past getting qualified persons on there. However, in talking to you folks this morning, it sounds like you don't have that same concern.
Let me give you a little bit of quick history that Dwayne can help with. We had a 3-person board, and Bill Harmon was one member, and John Fort was one member, and there was one other. And Bill Harmon, as I recall, had a medical issue where he could not attend. John Fort, as a member, had a conflict with a case coming before him, so he had to recuse himself. There was no board. So at that point, we named a replacement for John Fort. You guys remember that? And so this came up again after the sandpit issue that Vicki Gurman, in the interest of transparency, was the first to approach me and ask, could we consider raising that number to 5, because she almost felt that there was a conflict. And I said I would examine that, but then I have coffee with Leonard, and so I ran that by him, and he said he was not opposed to the 5. And then I called the chairperson, that would be Butch Liker, so that he wasn't in the dark, and said we're going to discuss this with no promise one way or the other. Vicki tells me that there is no problem in finding membership. And I do know from a personal appeal from John Fort that he has interest in being named again, or did. So with that in mind, I think we need to open this for discussion, decide yes or no to moving toward or away from raising the board number to 5.
Yeah, and it's absolutely just in discussions with the planning office. It looks like that's a matter of resolution and adding that to the regulations. The statute allows, I think, for between 3 and 7 members on that Board of Zoning Appeals.
Under the current rules, one of the members must be a member of the Planning Commission. I like that. I think that brings some continuity from the Planning Commission to the Board of Zoning Appeals, but we only have 3 appointees, county appointees to that Planning Commission. So it would probably be a stretch to get 2 of those to agree. But right now, that happens to be the case. Leonard is a county appointee to the Planning Commission, as is Vicki. Gurman, and they both serve on the Board of Zoning Appeals. So anyway, we need your input, guys.
So what would be the step? Just have Linda go ahead and draft a resolution, bring it to the next meeting, and
I believe so. Just based in the conversations, Alicia is in the process of getting me all of those past documents from her office so that I'll have those available. As you may or may not remember, I won't be at the next commission meeting, but I certainly could have that prepared for you for the next commission meeting.
and then have those members may turn in some names of prospective members.
And they're not on the agenda. Leonard, would you like to offer anything to this discussion since you're on that board?
Well,
Please come to the microphone, please, and,
So you can be on TV.
yeah.
I like microphones. You know, it really hasn't been a problem of having only 3 until the issue with Pierceville came up, and that got kind of touchy for all of us. The requirements in there, I think, are something that, if there's some way of maybe being a little more defined, because every one of those requirements you have to look at are subjective to an individual's opinion. I could take exception on either side of them. But I don't have any problem at all with it being 5. In fact, maybe there'd be a lot of advantages to being 5. But up until now, all of those appeals were pretty much common sense and didn't have any problems with them. I guess what gets to me a little bit is when I have a county commissioner afterwards say, well, there's a couple of things I would have done differently. Well, if there's a couple of things you would have done differently, why tell me now after it's all over with? But that kind of makes you say, well, why in the hell am I on here? But, I don't know what the involvement of the county commissioners is supposed to be after it gets into that appeal process. So I know there were lots of feelings about it, and I don't know how you're going to take those out of this. So I think we made the best decision we could with what we had with 3 members. But if you'd have had 2 more, why, we probably would have had a lot more objectivity in it. So I don't have an issue either way if it's 3 or 5. Being able to find 2 more people in the county willing to serve, I think we could find those. And I know that John Fort, when he had to step down, I guess, he had some feelings there. And he was, in his business of real estate, he had a lot of good, on the zoning board, he had a lot of good input that I valued. So 5 would maybe be better. I don't have a real strong feeling either way. But whatever you decide you want to do, that's fine with me. And if you want me to step down, I can do that too. So anyway, like I said, I don't have a real problem one way or the other. Up until this issue with Pierceville came up, it hadn't been a problem of only having 3, but that got to be pretty testy.
You said it hadn't been a problem, but it was back when John Fort had to step down, had to recuse himself, so it was a problem.
I'm sorry now, I didn't hear you, David.
When John Fort stepped down or recused himself, there was a problem then because they didn't have a quorum. And so the thinking of Vicky and perhaps my thinking is 5 give you a better chance at a quorum than.
Oh, yeah, no question in that at all.
Okay. So, itching to say something.
Well, probably not good. I guess I'm in favor of keeping it at 3. I don't think adding 2 more is going to really affect any of the decisions you made. If I recall, in my 6 or 7 years on that board, we only had maybe 2 that we had a split decision, and only 1 where we had to have somebody recluse himself, and the other 2 made the decision. It was unanimous between the 2 that survived. I almost disagree. I think you'd have trouble finding extra people, because that's, like Leonard said, 95% of those cases are pretty cut and dry. Makes a lot of sense. And every 2 or 3 years, you have a hot topic like the,
Yeah.
and it's hard on, very, very, very hard on those 3 individuals. And the last thing they need is input or pressure from the county commission on that decision, I think.
Well, and another issue that came up, which was, I thought, rather redundant, but when we got a request from an attorney accusing the board of making decisions on the recommendation of the planning commission, and that wasn't the case. We all 3 felt we were independent. We made decisions on what we had it, and making the statement that we were it wasn't legal for us to make those decisions based on the recommendation of the planning commission. That wasn't the case. It isn't the case. When we sat down and discussed it and made our decisions, we all were from an individual point of view, and what the planning commission said really didn't matter to any of us. We were going to make the decision we felt was right. So that's an issue that needs to be made sure that the people on that committee understand, even though somebody says you're not authorized to make those decisions based on the planning commission's recommendation. That's not true. That's not the way it is.
We agree completely with that.
I'm sorry?
I agree completely with what you said there. When I was on the zoning board of appeals, we rarely paid attention to what the planning commission's recommendation was. We used our judgment on.
Well, I got an email from the attorney, and our email back said, we are independent. We do not make decisions based on the planning commission's recommendation.
Correct.
So,
Agreed.
but I don't know if that issue's died away or not. I thought it was going to be brought up again in court. I don't know whether it is or not, but anyway.
We appreciate your
Okay.
service on both the planning and the planning commission and the Board of Zoning Appeals, so
Yeah.
thank you.
I'll do whatever you all decide you want to do. I'm not fighting one way or the other.
Well, maybe we should have Linda draw up a resolution and have it ready for, at least we could discuss it when the other 2 members are here.
Yeah, I agree with that. So if that's not too much trouble, Linda, for a future meeting, can you have
Do you want that for the next meeting?
if you can do it, that,
Oh, wait till after the budget. There's no hurry on that.
it isn't going to take that long to have that discussion, so whatever.
What works in your time schedule?
Okay.
When you've got it drawn up, let's have Robert put it on, or Dory put it on the agenda, and we'll
Okay.
go from there, so.
Okay, will do.
Okay, anything else, Linda?
No.
Okay, Larry?
May I make one other comment? I think maybe part of the reason for somebody wanting 3 instead of, or wanting 5 other than 3 is because maybe that person was outvoted and they didn't like being outvoted.
Maybe. I don't know. Okay, thanks.
Calling a spade a spade.
Larry?
Let's see. The only thing I really attended was the fair and did a sales, talked to people about their sales tax proposal. Most of the folks you talked to were very much in support of it and had already voted. Most of them, a lot of them had. It was a good turnout at the fair. I, really appreciate all the hard work the volunteers put into it. I think they started down the road the right way.
I spent more time in this situation than I have in all the others put together. And I had you, Mr. Jones, go out with me and take a look.
Yeah, we're moving along now to board reports, Leonard, thanks, so, yeah.
Yeah, and then, I don't even know when Leonard and I did that, but I spent a half a day driving around looking at sand pits with Leonard in areas, and so we did that. Did interviews for a fairground manager, sat in on those interviews. Other than that, I think that's it.
Okay, all right, thanks. Dwayne?
Great Plains Development monthly meeting. Actually have money in the bank. The guys are actually making money. First time, how long I've been on that commission? 7 years, whatever. Anyway, first time they're making money, good money, and they're just thrilled. Very busy, a lot of things in front of them as always. And other than that, just some sales tax visits, and that's pretty much it.
Okay, thanks. Matt, before I give my report, are you in the audience to participate in or just observing?
Just observing.
All right, thank you. Okay, I attended that Board of Zoning Appeals meeting just as a spectator where the Huber Sand and the city, or the people of Pierceville sought resolution, and also attended as an observer of the Fenney County Committee on Aging meeting, and then set for most of a day on neighborhood development directorship interviews. And then we were at the fair for the fair booth for sales tax in the afternoon. Didn't have a whole lot in numbers, but those that came by that I visited with, I had the feeling probably 20 were for the sales tax, would vote for, and a couple maybe not so much for, so it's hard to read. And then we had a half a day of Zoom meetings for health department directorships. And then I have a couple phone calls I want to just pass on to you. We've already talked about Vicky and wanting the board to raise, the zoning board to raise numbers. But Nathan Heck, pastor from the Nazarene Church, called, and he was going to do an hour's radio segment, he and someone else on the Spanish radio station, and he wanted to know the county commission's feeling generally about how would he report the monies that were taxpayer monies that were used for the daycare center. And I told Pastor that yes, that was taxpayer money. However, it was federal taxpayer money, not that makes any difference, but it was sent to Finney County, and part of that was designated for use for daycare, and so it was either use it or lose it. That was not local taxpayer money, but it certainly was taxpayer money, and we spent that or sent that on with the blessing of the federal government program. I also had a call from Jimmy Hughes, who owns the land surrounding a radio tower that the county owns, the tower plus 3 acres out on 23 Highway. And Jimmy has rented us a home. There are 2 houses at that farmstead. He's rented the house, and the people there have a strong need for both cell phone coverage and also internet. So he was wanting to know if the county would have any objection to that radio tower, if he could invite United Phone to come and put a cell site on top of it, and also to invite Wheatland Broadband to come and put up something there so they could get broadband service. And I told him, I can't speak for 5, but I don't see any opposition to making that tower useful. Right now it contains 1 radio, that's is amateur radio frequencies to hook St. Catherine Hospital with the Dighton Hospital. And I don't think it's used very much, so that's the size of my report. So anything else to come before this body for the good of the order? Dory, anything? Nope. Nope. Well, until the 16th at 8:30 in the morning, we stand adjourned. Now,
Thanks.
we've got what, you asking something? Now we've got a budget workshop that we're going to reopen, and we're going to sit right here